No brunch is complete without a delicious donut, and that's exactly what you're gonna get. Great Grandma's donuts are the classic donut. You all know how to make bread by now, and it's a lot the same. A little bit of flour, some yeast, some sugar, you mix it all together, it raises, you roll it out, cut out those iconic donut shapes, which also give you the donut holes. Raise them again, and then just fry them up, and you have a delicious donut that can be glazed, frosted, sprinkled, whatever you want, and it's all coming up on today's Wise Guide. Okay, I get it. We all love donuts. Why do we love donuts? Because donuts are delicious. A donut just makes you happy. It's kind of like a daisy. You look at a donut and you're like, I don't know, the world is just a better place. Okay. I have a lot of friends that love donuts, and I'm not gonna lie, donuts are always good. Even a crappy donut from like a grocery store is still at least a donut. But have you ever had a homemade donut? You know the ones, those really old-fashioned, fluffy, yeasty donuts that are kind of airy and squishy and just have a nice little glaze or frosting on them? Yeah, that's what these are. My great-grandma always made donuts. She was known for them, and then my grandma made them, my mom made them, and you know what I especially remember? On snowy days, kind of like we're having now, because finally here in Iowa, we're having snow, which I love snow, but it's getting a little late for the snow, and I really don't want to talk about it. But on snowy days growing up, Mom and Dad would get up and make donuts. This was the one time I remember my dad actually baking, and he loved to make donuts, probably because he loved to eat them. And who doesn't? These honestly are pretty easy. It makes just the right amount, and it's no harder than any bread that you've ever made. Probably like one of the easier breads. So to start, it's gonna start like any other bread. To make it easy, in the bowl of an electric mixer, put some all-purpose flour, a little bit of sugar. A lot of the sugar comes in the glaze, so you don't need to overly sweeten the dough. Some instant active yeast. Now you're probably thinking, I don't use instant active yeast. What is that? This yeast is really no different, except it's smaller granulars. So that means it's gonna dissolve quicker. You do not have to put it in water first to dissolve. You just put it with the dry ingredients. This is what I grew up always using, and I just find it easier. Since these are an old-fashioned donut, they have a little bit of nutmeg and some cinnamon in them. If you're kind of scared of those, you can leave them out, but honestly, you don't really overly notice them when it's done, you just get a great flavor. So I would definitely throw it in. Mix that all up until it's combined. For the wet ingredients, you want to scald some milk. That just means heating it up till it starts to steam. I just like to do it on the stove because I can watch it. Once it starts to steam, just pull it from the stove, pour it into a large measuring cup, and add your butter right to the milk. That's just gonna melt the butter right into the mixture. You can just quicken the process by stirring it a few times just to make sure it's melting. When the butter's all melted, just add some vanilla and then your eggs. Whisk after each egg, break that yolk up and get it really well incorporated. Beat that together until it's really well combined and all the eggs are broken up. Add the wet mixture to the dry and mix it until it's really shaggy. At this point, you just want to start adding more flour. This is the base of the dough, and now we're just gonna get it until it's soft and really pliable. Scrape down the sides of the bowl every so often just to make sure everything is incorporating evenly. Otherwise, you're gonna have a few chunks. Once your dough is just starting to hold together, you can add the salt. I like to add the salt at the end when I'm making dough because if you add at the beginning, it can sometimes deter the yeast a little bit and make it so it doesn't rise as well. Keep adding little bits of flour as needed and let them really work in before you add more. What your machine is doing is just kneading for you. This is taking the work out of it so you don't have to keep kneading and making your hands and arms extremely tired. Yeah, I know, it probably shouldn't make you tired. We should all work out more, blah, 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 but come on. The machine just makes it easy. When your dough pulls away from the sides and leaves the bowl clean and it is smooth to the touch, oil a bowl really well. Just use a neutral oil. I like to use grapeseed, that way there's never an off flavor. Before I take the dough out, I just like to flour my board lightly. Just knead it a few times by hand. This just helps me make sure I have a really smooth ball of dough, and that way I can kind of feel it and make sure it's just the right amount of a little bit sticky and tacky, but doesn't stick to the board. And then put your dough right into that oiled bowl. Cover it with some plastic wrap, and then set it in a warm place to rise. I like to either put this on top of my oven if my oven's in use, or I do sometimes live life on the edge, heat the oven up just a little bit, so it's just more around like 110 to like 115 degrees, and then pop it right in there. I know, you don't want to overly warm your dough, but that really is just kind of creating your own proofer. Smart. After your dough has risen double, you can punch it down and start rolling them out. I love when dough gets to this point. It gets really full, and it's just like that wonderful texture where you can kind of touch it and it's squishy and soft. Ugh. Lightly flour your board and just put all your dough right onto it. And the right scraper always comes in handy for getting all that dough out of the bowl. Slowly roll it out. Sometimes I like to oil the rolling pin just so it doesn't stick until it's about a 1/2 inch thick. If you need to, you definitely want to measure it because 1/2 inch makes a big difference. If it gets a little bit bigger, you're gonna have really big donuts. So you want it about 1/2 inch. When you're at that point, you can just start cutting off your donuts. You can find old school donut cutters, but the size of them really isn't the best, so I just like to use different types of biscuit cutters. So just a large round one and a smaller round one for the center. You could even use GLAZEs if that's what you have. Cut out the big donut shape first, and then the center hole. And there you have it, a donut and a donut hole. See, we're using all the scraps. That's the best way. I like to make sure I get the donuts as tightly cut together as they can be. That way, you only have to push the dough together once. When they're cut out, you can just put them onto a parchment-lined baking sheet sprinkled with a little bit of flour. That's just gonna ensure they're not sticking. Make sure to leave at least 2 inches around all the pieces, the donuts and the donut holes, because they will raise a little bit and you don't want them to stick. When they're all cut out and placed on baking sheets, you can just cover them again with some plastic wrap just so they don't dry out and they're able to rise. And you just wanna let them rise until they're not quite doubled, but just have started to raise a little bit. Once you have your first batch of donuts cut out, just put the scraps back together, knead it a few times till it becomes a cohesive dough, and then roll it back out to a 1/2 inch. It is gonna be more tough to roll at this point because that gluten is really gonna start getting tight and it's not gonna roll out as easy. It may help if you let it rest about 5 minutes before you roll it out. Any of the extra scraps left over at this point probably won't roll out the best, so just cut them into smaller pieces and kind of fry them up as a donut hole. After the donuts have risen, you can start heating up your oil. When you're frying anything, you wanna make sure that one, you have a really good stock pot or large kettle you're using. I like a large, wide one, that way there's a lot of surface area for the oil, and it's deep enough that it's not gonna splatter out, because hot oil on you will create an awful burn. That's the only tricky part about oiling. You can really burn yourself, so be careful. Have a good thermometer, either a frying or candy thermometer stuck to the side of the stock pot, or one like mine that sticks to the side but then goes to an electric thermometer and shows you a readout. When your oil gets to about 365, so anywhere really between 360, 365, sometimes down to 355, it's totally okay, you can start frying. Your first inclination might be just to drop the donuts in. That would be awful. One, that could splatter hot oil on you. Ouch, you don't wanna go to the emergency room over a donut. Use a big slotted spoon or a spider, anything that you can just lower the donut into the oil in. Right when you put the donuts in, they should start sizzling right away. You're gonna notice the temperature on your oil is gonna drop because you're putting something cold into it. Just keep it regulated, keep it so it stays right around that 360 to 365. It only takes a little over a minute per side. You're gonna flip it when it's a nice golden brown, let it fry up on the other side, then pull it up, let all that oil drip off, and put it onto a cooking rack over a baking sheet. There will be a little bit of oil that drips off, so I like to have something under the rack. Just keep frying them up, let the temperature come back up to 360, 365 in between, because you want that right frying temperature. Little tip, if your oil is way too cool to fry in, that means that the dough is just gonna soak up a lot of the oil. So then you're gonna have extremely oil heavy donuts, ew. If it's too hot, it's just gonna burn the outside and you're gonna have really gross, crusty donuts. So the temperature does make a difference. At the end, I just like to fry up all my donut holes because those are like the cook's little treat. And I also fried up any of the little scraps I had that weren't easy to roll back out. As the donuts are cooling, you can just make your glaze. The glaze can really be anything you want. You can even use your favorite frosting, but I like to keep it really simple. I like either a chocolate ganache or a white glaze. For the chocolate ganache, just put together some chocolate, some heavy cream, microwave it for about 30 seconds at a time, stir it in between until it's smooth and glossy. For the white glaze frosting, just mix together some powdered sugar, milk, and vanilla. Mix until it's completely smooth and the right consistency for dipping, and you're ready to go. When your donuts are cool, you can just dip them in the glaze. I like to do just the tops. You can put sprinkles on them or sanding sugar, whatever you want, but these are best fresh. Of course, they freeze well, so don't worry. You can pop them in the freezer, pull them out when you want them, have people over for brunch, and have the most amazing donuts. Or you could even be really inventive and start making different things with them. Like, can you imagine a donut ice cream sandwich? Yeah, I can, and my imagination is pretty happy. If you agree and love the idea of making donuts, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. For the recipe, go to the description box, and for more great recipes, go to wiseguy.com. Until next time, get in the kitchen and get frying up with some donuts.